I would like to start this video with an apology. I don't think the accent that I tried to work out in the previous videos came out the way they were supposed to, and I'm kinda miffed about that. But I am glad that so many of you people actually, watched the videos and were kind enough to leave your comments relating to the same. I'm really glad for that. And you know what I'm glad about? This series, to be honest. I've had a lot of fun making these videos and particularly playing these two games. They're fantastic games, and part of the reason why I made videos on them was to, perhaps nudge some of you viewers into playing these games yourselves. That being said, while playing these games, I found quite a few startling similarities and crazy coincidences and parallels that I would like to share in this video. So consider this to be a contrasting piece rather than a comparison piece. And also consider this to be an addendum. Anything that I've not covered in the previous videos and I think is of note, I'll be covering here. So without further ado, I am Rupit and welcome to DumbShizTalks, where every goddamn fake accent under the sun is our real estate, bro! Okay, I'm sorry. Can we do that again? No? Okay, just hit the intro. Let's start this piece with what I consider to be one of the most out there, one of the most crazy coincidences that happen to occur in these games, and something that's pretty obvious. Well, you see, both games have protagonists returning from previous games, but neither of them have the original voice actor. And the reasoning behind this, as I've already touched upon in the previous videos, range from understandable to downright confusing. And what's more, both did a very poor job of marketing this change in voice actors. But the bigger problem, I think, is let's be honest, it's not the voice actors' fault that they were chosen for these roles. It's just that the voice actors aren't suited for this role, or just feel a bit odd when voicing these particular characters. But more importantly, the writing is just not there to, support the voice actors. Say if Eric Johnson had been given the had been given the lines of dialogue that were more in line with the previous entries, it would have sounded odd, but it at least would have, been the same character, which is not the case here. And let's just not get into the convoluted mess that is Metal Gear Solid 5's explanation for its protagonist, so let's put that aside. But I think that also leads into a bigger problem with both of these games, and that is tone and subject matter. Now, I've kind of critiqued both these games individually, but something that they share is that they're not able to effectively utilize the controversial and dark subject matter that they're using. Splinter Cell has all its clandestine operations, and the fact that America can be a bit jingoistic. I don't want to sound mean-spirited here, but let's just say America is prone to making mistakes in its power-fueled rampage, is what I'm trying to say. And that's fine. It is a bit tone deaf when it comes to the subject, the plot of the entire story, and actually kind of drags things down a bit, but it's okay. It's tone deaf, but I can't really say much about it, especially since the rest of the plot makes up for it. That cannot be said for Metal Gear Solid 5, and that's because the series is known for not being subtle about its political messages, ideologies, and general tone. Okay, sure, it has its, goofiness and its more lighthearted tones at times, but throughout the entire series, there has been a constant theme of war and peace. This is one of those games that I can always say is anti-war, except when it comes to Metal Gear Solid 5. I don't know. I think even Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker had the same problem, but there doesn't seem to be a reason for the subject matter to take place. Peace Walker might have done the story a little better, but here it's just all over the place, because you have very dark subject matter here. You have stuff like child soldiers, ethnic cleansers, language, war, and the idea that of private military forces, so on and so forth. There is a genuine amount of content here to unpack, but the problem is Metal Gear Solid 5 doesn't do its best to confront the issue. It just shows you the issue, decides to say very little about it, and then sidesteps the entire thing for more player-driven narratives and more gameplay, rather than, more story beats. And I think, okay, let's just say Metal Gear Solid 5 handles it a little bit better than Splinter Cell Blacklist. I do think there is a decent amount of care put into the subject matter, but it's just that it's not incorporated into a plot, and it's not tied all the way back in to the main game. That is what I'd like to say. Which also brings me to another startling similarity, another parallel. You see, Splinter Cell Blacklist has a level set in Guantanamo Bay. Arguably one of the most inhumane places on Earth. Yeah. And Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes takes place in Camp Omega, a place that years down the line would be renamed to Guantanamo Bay. So yeah, both games have Guantanamo Bay, and oh my god, I decided to mention that stupid demo. Okay people, bear with me here. Let's take a detour. Ground Zeroes is in a bit of a difficult position for me to explain. First off, because it's a demo. Let's not beat around the bush here. This is Metal Gear Solid 5's gameplay in a beta or an alpha state. The movement is pretty much similar. Almost all mechanics are nearly the same as the Phantom Pain, but at the same time, there is a little bit of roughness to it. It's a lot more unrefined. Movement feels a little slower and a little bit clunkier. Reflex mode is a bit too punishing. The UI elements are just not more intuitive enough, is something I like to say. It's also a demo because it only has one main mission that's canon to the entire story. It also has 5 more missions that are considered side-ops. They're not canon because they're basically pseudo-historical recreations. And while I do think they offer a pretty good variety of gameplay challenges, they're a bit generic, and also they don't really account for the fact that the game is very small and very short for a game that was actually priced at about $40 at launch. $40. And let me remind you, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, was $60. Make of that what you will. But after playing both games, The Phantom Pain and Ground Zeroes, I have come to a realization that I don't think we should, dismiss Ground Zeroes as nothing. Because in terms of tone, consistency, and especially the story beats, this is way more meaningful than anything The Phantom Pain has to offer. And again, it's just one mission that's canon to the story, so there's that. And let's be honest, this game captures the atmosphere of Guantanamo Bay extremely well. It is a horrible, terrifying place, and at the same time, it is a playground for various types of infiltrations, and it's basically, again, the concept of Metal Gear Solid 5's open world condensed into a small, digestible map, which is highly replayable, of course. And yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about when it comes to Ground Zeroes, but I do think that I might have come back on to loving this game more than I, used to before. Now that we've set up the whole thing, the reason I did bring it up was because, again, Guantanamo Bay. In Ground Zeroes, Guantanamo Bay, or Camp Omega as it's called, is a place where people are imprisoned without trial. They may be children, they may be elderly men, they may be prisoners of war, they may be people who have not held a butter knife in their hands, let alone a gun. But all the same, they're prisoners there. Because reasons? And you know what? Ground Zeroes does a fantastic job of showing it through its atmosphere and through the story. Because, let's be honest here, you're not exactly playing as a good guy. You're pretty much a war criminal who's trying to hide a nuke from the world, while at the same time rescuing two people who know too much about the operation. So you're rescuing them not because, well, they're children, but because, well, they might rat you out to the public. And yes, it's as awful in theory, and yes, that's exactly what the story boils down to in the end. In Splinter Cell Blacklist, however, Guantanamo Bay, named Guantanamo Bay by the way, it doesn't have any other names to make it, at least sideline it a bit. It's a regular prison facility. Like, really, there's no commentary about, the crazy amount of tragedy that occurs there. It's just a normal American prison. And in fact, you know what? Don't hurt any one of the soldiers there. Not even the dogs. The dogs are especially important. What the hell? When it comes to the gameplay, there are very few similarities here. Both games run off of a light and sound-based detection systems, but that's kind of the point for almost all stealth games. All dedicated stealth games at least. Even then, both games have different ways of approaching the stealth sandbox. Again, Splinter Cell Blacklist is a lot more linear and level-based than compared to Metal Gear Solid 5's open-world approach. And the way you complete missions and proceed through the game is completely different in both. But, and this is a big but here, progression is something that both games tackle somewhat similarly, in that they exist, and they are very well ingrained into the game. Splinter Cell Blacklist is the more simpler approach. Basically, you complete missions, you earn cash, and you use that cash to upgrade your ship, which gives you bonuses and bonus abilities and improves your stats, and also access to better weapons, gadgets, and gear that can be used in the field. I've already explained why the system works, and again, the same holds true even now after playing this game over and over again. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a lot more involved, since, researching and developing and also using weapons requires not only just cash, but also resources and people, and it's all tied back into the mother base building minigame. It's a lot more involved, it takes a lot more time, but at the same time, it has a much broader scope in the amount of gear and items that you can develop. Now, here's the interesting part. Both these systems suffer from perhaps the same kind of problems. A reason why progression systems are present in video games is to provide a certain degree of growth for the character you're playing, and also to provide bonuses to the player for playing the game to a certain point with a certain degree of skill that can improve the amount of options, and also just make the game play a little faster and improve in terms of the gameplay depth. And that kind of works in a stealth game, but there is a large amount of people in, especially when it comes to stealth enthusiasts, that believe that the player should be given the best equipment right from the get-go, because providing inferior equipment to them kind of gimps their stealth approaches. This is extremely visible in Splinter Cell Blacklist, since you can easily be detected from sound alone, since your current stealth gear has a very low rating. And speaking of that gear alone, something that makes it extra excruciating is that in order to unlock the high-end stealth suit, you have to complete Grimm's 4th echelon side missions, which are all stealth-oriented. So you get the problem here. You're supposed to play the most stealth-oriented missions in order to gain the best stealth suit. So wait, isn't that supposed to be alternate one? You're supposed to use the best stealth suit to give you a fighting chance in the better areas, right? And this exists for all the side missions, mind you. They do gate a certain amount of gear. But another more significant way that the game locks upgrades is the Paladin, which needs to be upgraded in certain ways in order for better equipment to be available for purchase. And then there's Uplay, and let me get one thing straight here. Ubisoft, if you're watching this, if there is a extremely unlikely chance that you're watching this, nobody cares about Uplay. Please stop shoving it down our throats. Okay, I'm done. Gating gear behind Uplay points is just stupid, absurd, and I don't think I can say much about that. And you know what? The same problem is present in Metal Gear Solid 5, just to a higher degree. I've already explained that the R&D, research and development system, is tied into building Mother Base, and that's fine up to a certain extent. The problem is, you will not have the required R&D level to research and develop and obtain some of the higher level equipment if you're playing exclusively on single player. So if you want some of the best weapons in the entire game and some of the most highly valuable equipment and gear, you're gonna have to A, grind for hours upon hours on end like I did, or B, you're gonna have to go online and use Metal Gear Online's FOB system to increase staff capacity so that you can decrease the grind a little bit, but still the grind will exist. Now, there is a workaround for this. but it only exists on PC in the form of mods, which, after being completely exhausted of, trying to micromanage my base, I just decided to give in. And I was able to get a lot of the extremely powerful equipment. The endgame suits such as the Cyborg Ninja outfit, the Raiden outfit, the bandana and its infinite bandana variant, and also the best tranquilizer pistol in the entire game, which has a suppressor that will not break. So all of these will be available if you're playing online or if you're using mods. And then there are some pieces of equipment that are available in FOB, in Metal Gear Online only, so that's a bummer. However, there is another small problem when it comes to this particular system. Namely, the fact that both systems in both games are a bit overwhelming. It takes time for the player to, completely come to grasp with all the systems. Metal Gear Solid 5 has just way too much armor, weapon, and items to just, understand which is better and why. You also get the ability to customize weapons later on. And the same is present in Splinter Cell, to a little less extent, but still it's present. And you know what? It's fine, but I just can't help but feel that it could have been optimized a little bit better, at least, when it comes to, buying and unlocking upgrades. Now, to this point, I've been exclusively talking about some of the things that these two games do similar, but something that the games do completely different, and something that's worth talking about in this case, is their approach to level design and gameplay. Metal Gear Solid 5 focuses on an emergent sandbox, a system of constants and variables, mechanics that can interact with each other and play off of one another to create a very dynamic system of gameplay. This leads to extremely different approaches in gameplay design and allows the player to express himself very creatively. And this is something that has become a fad over the years. And while I would say that Metal Gear Solid 5 does it very well, there are also a lot of exploits which kind of drag down the experience. Yes, my complaint from the previous video resurfaces again. In the end, you're doing the same thing. Oh, okay, I'm not gonna do that. Sorry. So, while I do appreciate the emergent sandbox and the open world approach that Metal Gear Solid 5 goes for, and also mostly succeeds in, it does falter in a few places. Namely, in the mission variety and the amount of hours you have to sink in to complete the game. Splinter Cell Blacklist suffers from the opposite problem. The game's at times the game feels a bit too limiting when it comes to angles of approaches, but at the same time it has just enough breathing room to keep things fresh every time you load up a level or play another mission. The levels take place in different environments and aren't restricted to the two maps of Afghanistan and Africa that unfortunately Metal Gear Solid 5 has to deal with. So there's that. So both games have a very distinct approach to level design, and both actually succeed in different ways and also falter in different ways. And overall, I think it's it's these differences that make both games so extremely enjoyable, so much memorable, and also extremely unique. And if there is anything you have taken from this video, it should probably be that these two games, while not the best, okay, I do admit they're pretty much close to reaching greatness, they still are stealth games that are definitely worth a try. And in fact, I'd recommend these games when it comes to stealth over other games because they're a lot more friendly to new players. And on that note, I think it's time to end this 3-part series on stealth games. I've had a lot of fun playing these games and a lot of fun playing the entries related to this franchise and stealth games in general, but I think it's time for me to switch gears a bit. So next time, we're going to be talking about something that is a little bit more crazy, a little bit more dumb. Something with giant robots. God damn it. Something with a little bit more flair, something with a little bit more, cinematic approaches, something with a little bit more chanting and explosions. How do you like explosions, people? I sure hope you do, because next video may come around a month later or something like that. Next video is going to feature a lot of explosions. And on that note, I think it's time for me to stop mumbling about stuff. And you know what? It's been a good ride until now, so let's keep going. If you like this video, like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell to stay notified on our videos. Again, if you have any comments, any suggestions you want to give, please jot them down in the comments. Until then, this is Rupit on behalf of DumbShizTalks, signing out. Peace.